Hello, students. So we're going to be picking up on page 92. I finished the first sentence from the last video. So we're going to pick up in the second sentence, which is really the first fully indented paragraph. So Trent, too, experienced a moment of revelation. A flash of what in the boy's eyes? Faster than the blinking of an eye, the boy had revealed something hidden and furtive that he brought out to the surface of his mind for a quick look and then dismissed. Something he remembered, perhaps, and then discarded, or something else, a revelation of some sort, or a sudden planned deception. Trent noted that during that brief flash, the boy's body underwent a change, went suddenly into a defensive position, stiff, taut. Something had happened inside the boy, like a fault line moving below the surface. A warning light went off in Trent's mind. "What is it?" he asked. "What?" The boy startled now, a look of apprehension across his face, his eyes darting fearfully. "It's not smart to be deceptive, Jason. We have to trust each other. I have to trust you, and you have to trust me. I have to trust you to tell the truth because not telling the truth can lead to trouble. Sooner or later, the truth will emerge. The truth will come out as the questioning goes on." Now a look of guilt. And Trent was certain that the boy had had a moment of planned deception and then discarded the idea. An errant thought, probably, that had nothing to do with the interrogation or a possibility that had blossomed for a moment. There often came a time in an interrogation when the suspect wavered, drifted away, or sometimes contemplated a new approach, or even decided to lie. Body movements often tipped Trent off to that kind of thing. But the flash had come and gone so quickly in the boy's mind that only a slight body movement had occurred. Now the boy sagged a bit in the chair, indicating that a crisis had been reached and passed. "Did you see anybody else?" Trent asked, allowing the moment to pass, but now on alert. He had been on alert from the beginning, of course, but now he had an acute focus for his alertness, the possibility of deception. The boy seemed to go blank, eyes dulled, body slumped. "Let's take a break," Trent said. Although it was risky, Trent sometimes paused in an interrogation depending on the situation. His instincts told him that this was the proper moment to leave the boy suspended, allow him a moment or two of reflection. Other times it was important to build inexorably, without interruption, toward the climax, confession, revelation. But that would come later. The boy frowned, surprised at the suggestion. "I think a break would do some good," Trent said. "I'll step out for a moment or two. Would you like something to drink? I can bring you back a soda." Trent, of course, would not bring back a drink, would pretend he had forgotten. By planting the idea of a refreshment would make the boy aware of his thirst. "Thanks," Jason said, glad of the break, but still uneasy. Questioning had not gone as he'd expected, and he wasn't sure about where things stood at the moment. Was he doing okay? He felt like he was back in school, not knowing whether he had passed or failed a test or picked the right answer in a multiple-choice quiz. Trent almost ran into Sarah Downs when he stepped into the hallway. She was standing immediately outside the door. Braxton and the senator were nowhere in sight. He was pleased to see her, a sudden and unexpected flash of brightness in the bleakness of headquarters. "Keeping watch?" he asked, a bit of teasing in his voice. "I'm interested," she said, "and I always pace the floor like when I'm killing time." Sighing, she said, "How's it going?" He shrugged. "We're only in the preliminary stage. He seems like a nice kid, well-mannered, apparently sincere." For his sake, he didn't emphasize apparently. She gave him a wisp of a smile. "That's nice to hear. Any new developments? I think they've stopped looking for new developments, although Braxton keeps sniffing around. He never sleeps, literally. Trent didn't take her up on Braxton's sleeping habits. Otherwise, nothing's going on, she said. They figure you've got the proper suspect, the perp, in there unless I find him innocent. Do you think you will? Was there a challenge in her voice? Why did this young woman disturb him? Why was it important to justify himself to her? If he's innocent, I'm going to find out, he replied, aware again of her cologne, feminine and subtle. I hope so, she said, reaching out and surprisingly touching his arm. I'm sorry if I seemed so negative, so abrasive in the car. I realize how hard your job can be. I apologize. No apology necessary, Trent said. He felt suddenly cheered, as if someone had opened a window, allowing a fresh breeze to invade the hallway. I'd better get back, he said, although reluctant to end the conversation. I wanted the boy to have a few minutes alone. The line of questioning so far has thrown him off balance a bit, and I think the stage is set for the next level. He wondered why he was telling her this, why it seemed important that she should know what he was doing. Good luck to both of you, she said. Trent was pleased that her voice didn't convey the sarcasm he had expected. Jason was thirsty. His throat parched, his mouth was dry, so dry that his tongue seemed to have swelled up. Funny, but he hadn't realized he was thirsty until Mr. Trent said he'd bring him back something to drink. He noticed for the first time the absence of windows in the room. Mr. Trent puzzled him. He seemed friendly, like he wanted to help find out who had murdered Alicia, wanted to help Jason remember what had really happened that day, but at the same time, there was something about his questions. Jason used the word strange, for want of a better word. He couldn't figure Trent out or what he wanted Jason to say. Sometimes he seemed unfriendly, like Jason had done something wrong, had broken a rule Jason didn't even know about. And those eyes of his, little black marbles, but alive, that didn't blink very much, that seemed to look right into your brain. On top of all that, he felt that Mr. Trent was disappointed with his responses. Maybe right now, this minute, he was reporting to the detective that the questioning wasn't going very well. A dawn of hope. Maybe they'd decide to call the questioning off and he'd be free to go home. Jason wondered whether the other guys had done well, had answered all the questions correctly. He even remembered something that would be vital, provided clues that might lead to solving the murder, catching whoever had killed poor little Alicia. He also wondered whether he should tell Mr. Trent what he hadn't told the detective about that afternoon. But he discarded that thought. Bad move. Mr. Trent's job was to find out about suspicious strangers in town, or people out of context. Anyway, Jason wasn't sure about what exactly had been going on between Alicia and Brad, if anything had been going on after all. Interesting. Sadness welled up within him as he thought of Alicia and the last time he had seen her, not knowing it would be the last time. How he wished he had seen something to help the investigation. How he wished Mr. Trent would help him remember a suspicious person he might have forgotten about. Although Jason didn't think that was likely. How could he forget something that important so completely? Yet the police, and especially Mr. Trent, who was supposed to be an expert at stuff like this, certainly knew more than he did about how the memory worked. In fact, Jason was kind of awed by the way the questioner seemed to know sometimes what he was thinking, Like when he had that wild idea about making up a suspicious person. Better be careful, Jason, he warned himself. Why should I be careful? A nagging thought just below the surface of his mind gave him an uneasy feeling again. The feeling that something was wrong, that things were not what they seemed. Was this his imagination? Or just being in this small office, no air conditioning, not even an electric fan? For some reason, the blank walls bothered him. No pictures, no windows. I want to get out of here. He realized that he could get out of there. He could simply get up and leave. He didn't have to even speak to anybody. Hadn't they said this was voluntary? He was a volunteer. Well, he didn't feel like being a volunteer anymore. He wanted to go home. Jason pushed back his chair, winced at the scraping sound it made on the bare wooden floor, and made his way to the door. The office was empty. The boy, gone. Trent stepped back into the hallway, saw Sarah Downs disappearing around the corner at the far end, and no one else in sight. The boy had obviously left the building, most likely escaping through the rear entrance. The word escape gave Trent a measure of satisfaction. Escape was certainly an indication of guilt. Why would the boy flee if he was innocent? Hurrying down the hallway to the rear door, he swung it open and stepped, blinking into the blast of sunlight. Waiting for his eyes to adjust, Trent saw the outline of two cruisers parked at haphazard angles and a figure approaching an overflowing dumpster. As his vision cleared, he saw that the figure was a derelict about to forage in the dumpster, so basically a poor person going dumpster diving. He spotted the boy standing at the entrance of the parking area, shoulders drooping, head down, as if studying the pavement for answers to questions that Trent could only guess at. "Jason," he called. The boy glanced up, saw Trent, frowned, swayed slightly as if trying to make up his mind whether to stay or leave. "Stay, please," Trent said, going towards him. Why was he keeping the kid here? If he left, alarms would sound and a search would be launched, and all of it would point to the boy's guilt. I need him. I need him to confess to me. "I'm sorry," the boy said. They stepped back into the shadows of an ancient brick building, its walls scrawled with graffiti. Trent checked cruisers, saw that they were unoccupied. The derelict was busy looking through the debris on top of the dumpster. "What made you leave?" Trent asked, genuinely curious. "I want to go home. I don't have anything to tell you." "Let me be the judge of that. But you can't leave like this. It makes you look suspicious." Startled, the boy could only repeat the word. "Suspicious?" "Look, no one has seen you leave. Let's go back inside, and you have more information than you think you have." A cruiser swerved into the lot and pulled up in front of them, the sunlight flashing on the windshield. They stepped aside to let it pass. "Okay," said the boy, sighing, doubt still in his eyes. He seemed frail, vulnerable. "Okay," he said again, and allowed Trent to lead him back inside police headquarters.